says it's live on Facebook.
Mm, perfect. So Tari, thank you so much for joining me here today, and virtually, even though
Yeah.
we're down the block from each other. This is a unprecedented type of thing that we're dealing with, and you're a psychologist. I've had you on Inside the Skev as one of my first guests, and we talked about your book and things that you do, and it was obviously a very different type of conversation, and the world basically changed overnight. So, I wanted to have you on today to talk about how do you recommend people cope with this?
Yeah. I mean, I think I've been having this conversation in different groups and with a lot of my clients. Yeah, it's a very uncertain time. Uh, so many things have changed overnight. So there are different things that I wanted to talk about today. The first one is that I think it's important to understand that no matter what is going on externally, outside of us in our world, no matter how uncertain, how scary, we still have the ability to manage and curate our internal experience. And so there is a lot of fear out there right now. There's a lot of people in fear. There's a lot of fear coming toward us in media and news. We hear all kinds of stories. And while there is a reality to what's happening, there is a lot of ambiguity, uncertainty, and fear. We can decide how much of that we want to feed and how much we want to be in that space versus being in a space of focusing on the things we can control and letting go of the rest. So,
do you think, it makes sense to continue to watch the news and know what's going on? I mean, it's almost like essential that you need to, in a way.
yeah, I mean, personally, I check the news once a day, maybe in the morning and at night. I need to know what kinds of things I need to do right now to follow best practices. I mean, my family's home now. We've been home. We're not going anywhere. But for people that watch the news for hours a day, I think that's too much. Too much fearful and negative or concerning information can cause a lot of anxiety. So that is actually feeding that fear-based energy. And anytime we are in fear, we are suffering. So the coronavirus and the situation that's happening globally is happening. And the only things that we have control over are what the experts are telling us to do. We can't change any of that, but we can choose how this time is going to be for us. So for me, I'm choosing to look at this time as, first of all, I have to accept it. And that's one of the rules in life, right? You have to kind of go with the flow. You have to accept what is, or you will suffer. So yes, you're stuck at home, maybe alone, maybe with a spouse you don't like, maybe with kids that have a lot of energy and don't want to be stuck at home, but you can't change that right now. So the number one thing I tell people to try to work on is to accept and embrace the situation, because you cannot change it. And if you're resisting something that you don't have control over, then you're suffering. The second piece is to try to find gifts. There are gifts, there is beauty in any situation. And some people might find that controversial for me to say, because this is a horrible situation that will impact a lot of us, and probably in more ways than we can even imagine.
Right.
But what we look for, we find. So for me, I'm home with my two girls, and I've decided to look at this time as a time for us to just slow down and be with each other. And I don't get that a lot with them. So we don't have to wake up in the morning and rush to school, get lunches packed. I don't have to order them around and direct them. And, there's almost no connection usually in our typical morning, and our days now are much different. So this is a time for us of more connection. And I think that can be true for a lot of people. Whether it's with the people that you are quarantined with, or whether it's people from all over the world that you can FaceTime with, text, call. As humans, we're wired for connection, and connection is really medicine. So the more connection we have during this time, as long as it's with people that are not kind of steeped in that fear, it doesn't mean people can't be afraid, because we're all afraid to some degree. But how much is that fear kind of uh, running your life and emotions right now?
Right. I felt like I've been able to connect with people pretty well, outside through things like this, through Zoom, through FaceTime, texting, whatever it may be, just, and, kind of turning up the volume on comedy with my
Yes.
friends,
Yes.
for sure. And, one of my friends, he's a rabbi in Minnesota, and he's been doing like these classes or different types of programming online. And he
Mhm.
was doing something today, and I just started like commenting and things like that on his page. My wife is yelling at me not to do that, and she's probably right, but I'm just trying to have some levity with the situation.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, whatever you put back is what you're gonna whatever you put out is what you're gonna get back, right?
right.
And so if you're looking for the comedy, even the things we watch right now, if all you're watching is the news, you're probably not getting a lot of like inspiration or levity back. So yeah,
No,
seek out shows that like don't make you think too much, that make you laugh. Laughing is also medicine. It's good for
it's
your,
such medicine.
yes.
And I'm looking right now actually on our Facebook page, and he's writing on it. Aaron, how do you know Terry? I love lasagna, because I wrote I love lasagna on his thing, because he was talking. It was some kind of comment. So yes, it's so important to do this.
Payback.
It's payback. Yeah, you get back what you put out, right?
Exactly. And this is happening in real time for you,
It is.
Aaron.
This is amazing. Oh, it's so funny.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
Yeah, I mean, this is just crazy times. I mean, I feel like this breaks open opportunities that you never knew that were there, because you just get shifted into a viewpoint, Um,
Hmm.
and, I think that, one of the things that I think causes me great anxiety, and I'm sure many people,
Hmm.
is the financial end of it. Certainly I don't want to get sick.
Yeah.
I would hope I'd be okay, and I hope my family is okay. That certainly worries. That's number one priority. But
Hmm.
then, the financial. How do you control that? I mean, so is it best to think of, like, what I'm doing in my head is like, okay, how do I figure out how to make money? Can I still sell real estate and do things like that while this is going on? How long does this last? How do I
Hmm.
pay my bills? And I run my head ram it, or just it goes crazy, like, of how many different ideas of different things I can do to generate income.
Yeah.
It's almost like going contrary to like just accepting the situation, but at the same point in time, it's a matter of survival in a way. So
Yes.
what do you recommend there?
I mean, I think we're all trying to figure that out. I don't think there's a right or wrong. I think it's got to be a combination of both. So
Yeah,
you do have to give yourself time to rest and be, because you can't. You're not going to be creative if you're not allowing yourself self-care and rest, and that's really important.
yeah,
And I do think there are going to be a lot of financial ramifications for many, many people. For some people, they'll be devastating. For other people, they'll be more manageable. Um, but I think we haven't even probably scratched the surface on how people are going to get creative. I mean, in my profession, I'm doing all my sessions by video. I'm also in coaching, and so that's already done kind of remotely
yeah.
across the globe. But so many of my clients have different professions, and they're finding ways to do their jobs. So if we're lucky enough to be able to think of that, that's great. I also think we have to understand we've never been in this situation before. Nobody in our lifetime, well, yeah, in our lifetime, we've never experienced this. So there probably is going to be some kind of help or modifications that we don't even know yet.
Right.
But the truth is, like, we'll all get through it. Like at a certain, this is all temporary, and at a certain point, we will be okay, even if it's not going to be pretty or fun for a while. So
Yeah.
sometimes reminding yourself of that, like, I don't know how, but everything in life is temporary. Everything that we suffer with or go through eventually ends.
Yeah. No, I think back to 2008-ish, I worked for a real estate developer, and 2007, you could kind of read the tea leaves, and I saw most people in the company get laid off, and then eventually me in late 2009, and I kind of had to reinvent myself, and that was pretty scary, but eventually came back and was able to figure it out, and it was a tough road.
Yeah,
But I think that you eventually can get yourself back up, and we go through cycles.
we do.
Yeah.
We do.
Do you think, sometimes people say have a glass of wine, relax, or,
Mhm.
whatever your glass of wine is.
Mhm.
What do you
Mhm.
think of that?
I agree. I mean, I think it's a combination right now of surviving, coping, and hopefully some thriving somewhere, sometimes. But I mean, I think the most important thing right now is for people to be gentle with themselves, compassionate with themselves, and kind of lower their expectations of themselves. Like I would aim, what I tend to do in times like this is just kind of like aim for good enough in most areas.
Right.
I mean, my kids are home. I've limited, I've kind of shortened my therapy appointments right now to give me a little bit more time in between sessions. My kids are watching TV while I see clients. That's not ideal, but
No.
I'm not going to be a full-time teacher while I'm also working, and we'll all be fine. So yeah, if you want to have a glass of wine, some days you may cope better than others. Some days may look better than others. And you may be coping in ways that are more productive or less productive, as long as you don't let it go overboard or it's interfering with your ability to function or enjoy your life.
Yeah.
Be generous with yourself. Be gentle with yourself. This is uncharted territory. So every day you get through and you're alive and your kids are alive and, not everything has gone to crap, I say it's a good day.
Yeah. I've
You
seen
know?
some different memes or cartoons out there where, you know, there's a schedule where it's like Monday, where it's like very set and everything like that. And then like Tuesday, it just continually breaks down to be like, fine, watch whatever the hell you want, use my
Yes,
iPad, like just get the hell away from me.
totally.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like I have a schedule right here that I'm looking at on my wall.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a preschooler and a second grader. My second grader also works really quickly, but she's probably doing total like 1 hour of school right now. And then they're playing outside for 2 hours. And then they're watching TV. And you know what? It's working. They're happy.
Right.
I'm able to work, you know? So drop any ideas of like what an idealized schedule or day looks like right now. You're probably not going to be at your best. You're not going to be as productive. You probably won't make as much money.
It is
That's
what
got
it
to be
is.
okay, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, it's even something though, just the fear that you talk about earlier, like just going outside, and it's whether or not we're overblowing it. And most
Mm.
people are going to be okay. And I read some editorial yesterday that maybe we should just isolate the people who are in most danger because of what's happening. And it's like you almost think, well, maybe I should just go out and just do whatever I do. And that's not, I don't think that's the right call. I think it's
Yeah.
best to heed the advice and do what we can, but that's almost like where you start to open up that can of worms, and it can drive you nuts.
Yes. And that's where I think it's really important to just stay connected with. I mean, I think if you just listen to the experts and then try to do the things that are going to bring you the most peace possible.
Right.
So when you find yourself in a lot of anxiety or fearful, think about what was I just thinking about? And normally, I mean, our thoughts create our reality. Our thoughts create our emotions, and they create our actions, which then impact our reality. So if you feel yourself in fear and anxiety, ask yourself, what was I just thinking about? Because that anxiety starts with fear in our head.
Yes.
And so then when you notice that you're having a fear-based thought or you're feeling anxious, don't try to fight it, because anything we fight gets stronger, but just gently redirect your mind to something more soothing. And it's really helpful to have maybe like one the 3 soothing thoughts available. Maybe write them down and tape them on your bathroom mirror somewhere that you're going to see them every day. And then say those thoughts to yourself. Something like, I don't know how we're going to get through this, but we will get through this. Or everything will eventually be okay. Or it's okay if I'm not at my best right now. Whatever speaks most directly to the fears that you have. Because the words that we say to ourselves, even if we don't believe them yet, do have an impact. Eventually, those words will start to get in, you know.
Yeah, it's all perspective.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But it takes a lot of consciousness and effort to work on shifting your perspective.
Yeah. You know, one of the apps I really like to use, and I've been using it for, over a year, is Calm.
Yeah.
And I find that I'm so glad that I started using that before there's a crisis.
Yeah.
Although I've
Yeah.
kind of got, I have like this goal spreadsheet where like I check in with myself every day, it's been great. And, it has to do with personal things or business or whatever it may be, just in terms of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself getting off track of it. And I haven't used Calm as much because
Mm-hmm.
everything is so off kilter. But I
You
have to
probably
let
need
that
it more
go.
than ever.
Yeah, I do. But like I've honestly been so busy trying to figure out all this stuff and, and my wife doing her stuff and the kids and this and that,
Mm-hmm.
where it's just put it off kilter. But, we have time, I think I'll be able to have time to shift back and just let it go. Like if I didn't do it, fine. And it's like, even some things on the goal spreadsheet, like are not really even possible anymore. So it's upsetting. So I don't
Yeah.
even know if I should continue doing that because I look at that and it could be depressing. But at the same point in time, it's okay, I think, to let it go, do it, try to stay in some kind of continual rhythm and,
Mm-hmm.
move forward. Right.
Yeah, I think right now our goals have shifted.
Yeah,
Temporarily, our goals and our priorities might be different. And I
absolutely.
think that's important to recognize,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, I look at all this where there are no rules and there is no clear direction, and just be open-minded and go with it.
Yeah. That's really all you can do. Like my goals right now are really like I just want to I want my kids to be like I want me and my kids to be connected. I don't want every day to feel like an eternity. Like
Yeah,
I want to feel like I can still work and they're still okay. And that's literally what my priorities are right now. Very
yeah,
different than usual. But it's also kind of nice. Like when I was talking about there's a gift here, like it's kind of nice to be able to just like narrow my focus. And for a lot of people, so, we have families that we're tending to, there's a lot of pieces happening. There are people that live alone.
right.
And for them, I think it's the opposite. They're like, how am I going to fill all this time? How am I going to do this? I don't like being alone. And one of the things I recommend for them is to like, this is a good time to try to experiment with trying new things that you like, new
Like what?
podcasts.
Yeah.
What?
like creative things.
Any, like, I don't like doing puzzles or watch or reading books. Do you like to read books? Do you like to listen to audiobooks? Do you want to learn how to sew? I mean,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it's a time, and I think it's good for people to have like a schedule in some ways, even in
Yeah.
their mind. Like I want to have time to take care of my body, so I want to exercise or do yoga. I want to have time to work on this specific goal or vision. I want to have time to connect with people. I want to be mindful of I don't know, like my finances and what's happening there. Just so kind of consciously planning out what are the important things for me. So it's just not a big open day where it's like, what the heck am I going to do all day?
Well, it's funny, like you say that, and I talked to my parents. They live close by,
Mm-hmm.
and they. My mom said I woke up in the morning. I don't know what we did all day, and then it got dark out, and
Yeah.
it's also in the same point in time with them and my in-laws. It's like it's hard where my in-laws live in Detroit area. We're not going to be able to to be with them, really. I mean, maybe if we go outside and take a walk with them, my parents at least. But my
Yeah.
in-laws were supposed to come in town in a few weeks. They were just out of the country. Who knows what's going to happen? Like
Right.
one day at a time.
Yeah.
But that's very hard to not have, your close relatives, be able to be there with you together.
Yes. And
So
so like I think the best we can do right now is FaceTime,
yeah,
you know? Thank God we have technology for those of us who have it.
right.
But yeah, it sucks. Like there's a lot of this that just sucks. There's no way around it,
There's no way around it.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess you just have to give up to that, give in to that, I should say, right?
Yeah. I think so. Like the more you kind of complain about it or resist it, the more you are suffering, the more you're in that energy of like resistance. If you learn, I always laugh because I always end up using this quote, and it's hilarious because it's a quote by Chris Christopherson of all people. I don't know why, but he said this once, that like life gets a lot easier when you learn to row with the current, and when you get really good, you throw away the oars.
Hmm.
So basically, you just go with the flow. When you can go with the flow, like this sucks, but there's nothing I can do to change it. So I might as well embrace it.
Yeah.
Things get so much easier.
It's funny. It's when I was in college, I was in a fraternity, and I don't know if it was like the right thing for me, but actually, met one of my best friends through that. So I guess it
Mhm.
definitely ended up being a positive. But while I was going through the pledgeship, I hated it. It was just not for me. And then the
Mhm.
last week, I said to myself, you know what? It is what it is. Just go with it and enjoy it.
Mhm.
And that was like the easiest. It's usually like the hardest thing mentally for somebody to go through because it's just so crazy. But
Right.
it was like I just gave into it. I went with it, and it was fine. It was an interesting experience.
Right. Right. Interesting.
But it was. It was like, I hopefully will never have anything like that again. But,
Right. Right. It's the same thing we could say about this period of time. It's very
right.
interesting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also, it's like you said, it is an opportunity to really slow it down, take stock of what you have close at home and
Yeah.
be together.
Yeah.
My kids are 7 and 9. My son's almost 10. I think about it. He's going to be in college soon. So my daughter, they'll be, it's not really that long.
Yeah.
And we'll have this time together. We'll always remember it.
Exactly. And like my girls and I were out yesterday or the day before, I don't remember anymore, but we took a walk around the neighborhood and we ran into two different friend families. One was in a car. So one of my
Perfect.
Bruni's friends. Yeah. And then one, like they came out on their porch and stood in the yard and we talked. And I just keep thinking about how amazing it's going to be when we can actually touch each other again and stand close,
Right?
and we never appreciated that before.
It's going to be the biggest party of all time.
Oh my god.
It's going to be great. Like, so
Yeah,
much fun.
I know.
Yeah,
So it really is about like what I mean, not all about mindset. There's a lot of scary stuff we can't control, but the way you're going to feel through it is really related to your mindset and how you choose to see it and experience it.
absolutely. Do you have any resources that you recommend people look at to be able to get through this, or can they contact you do you have any openings?
I don't know if I have openings, but I do have a postdoc who does. And I'm very connected to the therapy world
Mhm.
locally, so I can provide referrals. So yeah, find me on Facebook, or my website is drtarimack.com, TARIMACK.com. My Instagram is also a great place. I talk about all the stuff that I've been talking about, just really like peace and mindset. And so if you just, I mean, that's another thing. Like if you're on social media, be mindful of who you're following.
Oh
If you
yeah,
have,
I've definitely
people,
unfollowed people.
yeah,
I
you
can't
only
take
want
it.
to be taking in like good energy right now. There's enough fear out there.
Yeah,
So I'm on Insta, Dr. Tari Mack, and as far as other resources, I don't, I could think about it. If I think of any, I can post them under this
No,
video.
people should just follow your social media. I'm sure you'll post things as time goes
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
Well, this has been very helpful. It's been, therapeutic for me just to talk it out with you, because, this is just such a interesting time that we will learn from.
yes,
But I'm planning on having some more people. I don't know how many, but
mhm,
I want to have more people come on, talk about their experience through this, and just try to show support throughout the community. So
yeah.
thank you
I'm
so
so
much.
glad you're doing this. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's interesting. So stay on. I'm going to end the Facebook feed, and thanks everyone for watching. And I think we're off, and I'm going to